about epilepsy, where we talk about all things epilepsy plus more. Today, oh my gosh, my microphone is not working today, but today we have a special guest. We are here with Sue, who is the creator of the graphic novels. I hope I'm saying this right. Epilectrica.
Almost. You almost have it. It's Epilectra.
Epilectra. There you go. Yeah, she is the creator
Right.
of the graphic novels. She turned, which is such an amazing idea. She turned disabilities into super abilities. Thank you, Sue, for being here with us today. I'm so excited. I absolutely love this idea of your graphic novel just because, a lot of times when we think of disabilities, we think of everything they cannot do. So the fact that you're turning them into superheroes is so amazing. It's such a great idea. I absolutely love it. But let's get to know you a little bit first.
Thank you.
Where
Okay.
did your journey start?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and to talk about my journey and to also, of course, talk about my soon-to-be-released graphic novel series, Book One, Epilectra. And I'm happy to talk about my journey with epilepsy and how it led me to Epilectra. My journey literally started out of the blue with a seizure that came from nowhere. I have no family history whatsoever. I had no brain injuries or any of the typical things that might lead to epilepsy. My first seizure happened when I was 50 years old, which is an unusual age also. It didn't happen in childhood. It didn't happen in advanced age. So that's also unusual. And my first seizure occurred, give me a sec. My first 3 seizures, and my diagnosis happened after my first 3. My first one was I'm going to go backwards instead of forwards. My third seizure happened on a ski slope at Vail Resorts. You probably are familiar. You've heard of Vail.
Yes.
And yeah, I was skiing down a mountain and I had a seizure.
That's scary.
And got to ride down the mountain. Yeah, it was a little scary, but of course, when you're having a seizure, you don't really know you're having a seizure. And my first 3 were tonic-clonic seizures. They were the only tonic-clonic seizures I've ever had, which also goes to show that epilepsy is sort of can be a moving target, which goes to show you about the complexity of the brain. You never know what's around the corner, sadly. But my first 3 were tonic-clonic seizures. The whole shebang. I was unconscious. I bit the inside of my mouth. I urinated. Lost control. So my third one was tonic-clonic, happened on a ski slope. Got a ride down in the little red sled down the mountain. The worst part of that one, my recollection is they cut open my very favorite ski jacket. And I'm like, the zipper worked just fine. Why did you need to cut it open?
Yeah.
That's my biggest memory from that one. And I was skiing with my husband at the time, and we ski at different levels. So they called him. They got him. They didn't think it was epilepsy at the time. I'm also type 1 diabetic, and so they thought maybe I was having something was wrong because of my diabetes. Because I was wearing a medical alert bracelet that said that I was type 1 diabetic because I hadn't yet been diagnosed with epilepsy. And so they were giving me, once I became aware again, they were giving me all sorts of fruit juice to drink. So by the time, I was able to check my blood sugar, it was sky high. So then I gave myself insulin, brought that back down, and I ended up, one sec, there we go. I ended up getting to see a neurologist afterwards and got my diagnosis. The time before that happened in a swimming pool where I was swimming with a friend, and fortunately we were by the side of the pool, and she was able to get me out. The lifeguard had to jump in and everything. And again, I just sort of woke up. We didn't really know what was going on at the time. Epilepsy hadn't crossed our minds yet. And the first one, I was in a car. Now, I wasn't driving. I was a passenger. It was over Thanksgiving break, and I was in a car with my daughter and my niece. We were in Boston at the time. I live part-time now in Denver and in New York, but we were in Boston visiting family. And my daughter was in the back seat. My niece, who was a Boston local, was driving us to the mall to get some things. And I had a seizure while driving, and my niece freaked out. My daughter, who had just taken a first aid class because she was thinking about becoming an EMT, remained calm, got us to the side of the road, and we actually pulled over illegally. And a police car happened to pull over behind us because of what we did. They called an ambulance, and I got taken to a hospital. So those were my first 3 seizures. I went to see a neurologist, eventually got diagnosed with epilepsy, and went on the journey of discovering, went on the let's find the best medication journey, which lasted 7 years. I went through 7 years of mixing and matching a whole plethora of different medications until we finally got to the 2 that seemed to best manage my seizures, which by the time we found the 2 that seemed to work the best, they settled down. One moment.
Do you need
They
a
settled down
moment?
into what were, I'm good.
Okay.
They settled down into absent seizures.
Okay.
And I ended up having absent seizures. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
So I had an absent seizure now for about an absent seizure about every 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
And that was my epilepsy story for a long time. And what changed then is I started doing some volunteer work. I've always volunteered, doing different things. And once I got diagnosed with epilepsy, I started volunteering in epilepsy monitoring units with epilepsy patients. And they were thrilled to have somebody who they felt better understood them coming in to volunteer with them. But they were also, they reacted to me in 2 different ways. And this was consistent. I did volunteer work in epilepsy monitoring units, both in Denver, where I live most of the time, also in New York, at 2 different hospitals. And they would react to me in 2 different ways consistently. One was they called me things like brave and heroic and things like that. And I'm like, I'm none of these things. But they felt that I was being ridiculously brave for coming to see them with epilepsy alone. And I'm like, I'm not brave. I'm doing something that I care about doing. And I take, the precautions that I need to take. I would wear a medical alert bracelet. I took public transportation. I let people who worked there know that I had epilepsy and what they would need to do, what my seizure might look like and what they would need to do if I had one while I was there, which never ended up happening. But the other thing that was interesting, and this is what happened, this is what ended up leading me to Epilectra. And this was all prior to the pandemic. And I found this really sad. almost everybody I talked to had given up something really important to them, whether it was their education, their career, a relationship, their independence. They'd given something really important to them up because of their disability, their epilepsy in this case. And I felt that that was really super tragic and really unnecessary. And then the pandemic hit, and all non-essential workers had to leave their posts. So no more volunteers at the hospital. And I ended up having a lot of time on my hands because of my diabetes. And we were in New York at the time. Because of my diabetes, I really spent virtually all of the pandemic in our New York apartment. My husband and my daughter, who was living with us at the time, did all of our errands and shopping and running around. I never went out. I never left the apartment. Thank goodness we had a little terrace that I could go out on. But I never went anywhere because my immune system was, I guess, supposedly a little more compromised than theirs was. But I had a lot of time on my hands and a lot of time to think. And during all that time to think, it occurred to, I thought a lot about what can I do to change the mindset of people with disabilities who thought about things the way my patients did, who put themselves in a world of I can't instead of in a world of I can. And that's where I came up with the idea of Epilectra. And the name really comes from the combination of epilepsy and electricity.
Yeah.
Because Epilectra is super ability, and I call it a super ability as opposed to a superpower, because it juxtaposes super ability with disability.
I like that. I like the fact that
Her
you did
super
that.
ability. Her super ability is being able to harness the errant electrical activity in her brain that causes her seizures. And she does have seizures in the book. You get to see what her seizures look like. She can harness that errant electrical activity in her brain that causes her seizures and send them through her body through her fingertips in the form of lightning. That's her super ability.
That's amazing.
And she has a younger brother whose name is Logan. And he is an electrical engineer. And I should back up a little bit. She gets epilepsy by being hit by lightning.
Oh, okay.
Which can happen. There's a lot of research that I did for this book, and it's all the facts in my book are based in science. Now, a lot of them are sort of stretched a little bit to make them a little more interesting, but they're all based in science. They go home one day for Thanksgiving. It also takes place in New York City. They go home to Philadelphia for Thanksgiving, and there's a big lightning storm. Lightning hits their house, and both she and Logan, her younger brother, are hit by the lightning that comes into their house.
Okay.
The result of the lightning strike is that she develops epilepsy. Her human name is Eden Rivers.
I like that.
She's a 5th grade social studies teacher. Her younger brother Logan is an electrical engineer. The result of the lightning strike ends up being that she gets this super ability that she can send out lightning through her fingertips. Logan ends up becoming an engineering savant.
Okay.
These things actually can happen if you're hit by lightning.
That's
they end up having a friend who lives in Eden's apartment building. His name is Angel Esteban. He's a very sort of debonair Hispanic fellow who has a lot of money. And his younger sister, when he was in university, his younger sister, who was 8 at the time, dies because of SUDEP. sudden, unexpected death because of epilepsy.
Yes.
And he feels very guilty that he was away at university at the time and not at home. And his whole life, he's wanted to do something to honor her. And so the three of them end up meeting together and putting their heads together and coming up with the idea of putting together a superhero team for superheroes who transform their disabilities into super abilities to do good in the world. And later on they create sort of a mission that they also will not harm their adversaries. Instead, they will work to rehabilitate their adversaries. That comes a little later.
Okay.
So the three of them are the founders of what is Team Seas. And SEAS is an acronym for support and empower everyone zealously. And of course, it's also short for seizure.
Yeah. I love that.
But it's an acronym.
I love
it. And Eden, or Epilectra, which is her superhero name, is the leader of Team Seas. Kind of like Captain America is the leader of the Avengers.
The Avengers, yeah.
Yeah. Epilectra, whose human self is Eden Rivers, the 5th grade social studies teacher. Epilectra is the leader of Team Seas. Logan, her brother, is behind the scenes guy who does all of the computer work. He builds the drone that takes Epilectra to all of her missions.
He's the brains.
And Angel is the older man who sort of the advisor guy and funds the project. He's the benefactor of Team Seas. And that's how the story gets started.
I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh. So you expanded this though to other disabilities, right?
I did. I didn't want it to just be about epilepsy. Although, it could have been. I mean, epilepsy is a lot more prominent than a lot of people think. It affects 1 of 26 people in their lifetime. I like to say it's as common as a letter in the alphabet.
Oh, that is right.
I didn't really see any reason why I shouldn't grow it. I think the mentality of the patients that I volunteered with that sort of held themselves back because of their epilepsy, I felt that was more than likely true of a lot of people with disabilities, that they focus more on what they can't do than what they can do.
Yeah.
When there's always a different path to get to your end result. You don't always have to go directly from A to B. You can always get to B by going through C and D first, or by asking for help along the way. And there's always a way to accomplish your dream. You don't have to necessarily go the most direct route. There's different ways to get to different ends, right? And so I thought it would be wise to expand it. Also certainly, DEI, diversity and equity and inclusion is such a hot topic these days.
Yes.
And by expanding the team, I would expand the, how broadly a book like this could appeal, not only by the different disabilities that it includes, but also the different kinds of people that we see that can be affected by it, young and old, different ethnicities. I have a Chinese young man who has cerebral palsy. I have a young girl who is in high school. She's my youngest character, who has endometriosis.
I love that.
I'm looking at a picture right here, so I don't leave anybody out. I have a very tall, athletic-looking Black gentleman who has autism. So, and I also have although my first two superheroes are Epilectra and another woman named Insulator who has type 1 diabetes. And I wrote about those two first because, of course, those are the two that I am most familiar with.
Yes.
The other ones I did a lot of research on.
Mm-hmm.
But almost all of them tie back to somebody that I knew or know.
Okay. Okay. So it's very personal for you then. This
Oh, incredibly personal. Very
yeah.
much so. And in a way, I think of Epilectra a little bit as my avatar.
And you know what? I honestly love the fact that you expanded to different disabilities because like you said, it includes more. It includes different type of people, everything. And that way, everyone can see a little bit of something within your graphic novel. It's I love the whole concept, the whole idea. When I first saw you on Instagram, I was like, this is so great. This is so amazing that the fact that she created, but I I know that it's not out yet. Do you want to tell everyone when your graphic novel will be released so they can go ahead and purchase it? I know you can pre-order. You can pre-order if you go into her bio on Instagram, and I'll have all the
Yeah, you
links
can
down
pre-order it
below.
now.
Yeah, I'll have all
You
the
can
links down
pre-order it
below.
now, and if you pre-order it now, you can get 15% off.
Oh, we love a
So
good
you get a little
discount.
bonus if you pre-order it.
Yes.
You can pre-order it now if you get a little discount. And like you said, if you take a look at if you take a look below, it will indicate where you can go to pre-order. It's on the website with a little hash slash mark, and it's pre-order. And then if you put in the promo code Epilectra, it will give you your 15% off.
Ooh, so definitely pre-order it so you can get that good discount in. When is the book going to be officially released?
Oh, I'm hoping it will be available on Amazon.com and through my website. And ideally, it will be available also in select bookstores and in comic book stores. I would say this spring, before the end of spring. Hopefully by the end of April, at the latest by mid-May, I'd say.
Okay. Okay. That's exciting.
I
How
don't have an
long?
exact date yet because we're still working out little details and final editing things. But I would say at the latest by mid-May.
Okay. It's a process. We
But
understand
if
that.
Right, but
Mhm.
if you go on epilectra.com, you'll get to see, you can interact with me, and you'll get to see a lot of what these characters are about. You'll see my bio, read a lot about my own personal story and background. And I came to this, another thing I'd like to say is that, another thing that you read a lot about lately is your second acts. And I'm a huge proponent of second acts. You never have to give up on your dream, and it's never too late to pursue your dream.
Yeah.
My whole career was in public relations. And I came up with the idea for this, like I said, after I was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 50. And it's finally going to be published when I hate to say it, but when I'm 61. And
Oh,
I
you
know
look good.
I look very good for my age, but
Yes.
um, but it's never too late to pursue your dream. Um, so never give up on your dreams. An Epilectra would say the same thing. It's never too late to pursue your dreams. You just have to get out and do it.
Yes. Yeah, it's something that I have definitely struggled with. I didn't think I would be able to go to school, to university, to basically live like a normal life, a life that people without epilepsy tend to have. I didn't think I would be able to have all that, and I myself am proof that I can have, and everyone who has a disability can have a life that they wish to have. You know, it's just like you said about going
And you'd be
a different path.
surprised.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. You know, according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, one
Hmm.
in every 4 individuals is diagnosed with a disability in their lifetime. So, uh, you know, everyone has something about themselves that they struggle with. You know, some more impactful on their lives than others, but everyone's got something that they deal with.
Hmm.
And there's always a way to figure it out, even if that means taking a little bit of a circuitous route to get to what you want to do, or asking for help, which is okay to do.
Yes.
You should never be ashamed of who you are, because it's what makes you you.
Hmm. That's what make us unique.
And that's another thing I want to say. There's 2 missions. Epilectra has 2 missions, real quick, if we have time.
No, we
One
have
is,
time.
okay, Epilectra has 2 missions, and I think they're both equally important, and they really work hand in hand. One is disability empowerment, which, you know, I'm really hoping, seeing superheroes with disabilities, I'm hoping just seeing, you know, people who are supposedly, you know, not all powerful, but seeing superheroes who are dealing with disability, I'm hoping that will show people that, you know, it's okay to have a disability. You can
Yes.
still have power and be strong. You know, the team's missions, the team's motto is, your difference is your strength. It doesn't have to be your deficit. It can be your strength. And the other part of their mission is stigma elimination. Now, I'm not kidding myself. I'm not going to eliminate the stigma around disability. However, a big part of eliminating stigma is through education and conversation. You know, what builds fear is a lack of education and a lack of conversation.
Yeah.
If we're afraid of what we don't talk about. So if you're open, if you're willing to talk about, if you're willing to answer questions for somebody, they're going to be a lot less afraid of what they know about than what they don't know about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love everything you just said. Everything. That's really why I started posting on social media and this podcast, was to start that conversation, to let everyone else know in the epilepsy community that they're not alone. Because when I was going through my journey, and sometimes I still do, I always felt like I was alone going through it by myself. But you know, the whole community has proven me otherwise. It's we have such a beautiful community. We're here for each other. And I love the fact that you said our difference is our strength, because a lot of times we see it as a negative thing, and you're turning it into a positive perspective instead of that self-defeating thought we always put on ourselves. And I absolutely love the fact that you are doing this. It's amazing. The illustrations, I love them. It's wonderful. Did you do the drawings yourself, or?
You know, I can't take credit for the drawings. I did do the concept art, but I didn't. The final illustrations, I will give credit to my illustrator. His name is Jamie Brown. He's wonderful. Um, and he's been great to work with. And my fingers are crossed that there will be an Epilectra book 2 sometime in the not too distant future.
We would love that. We would love that. Are you planning on expanding the disabilities more, or are you gonna stay within the ones that you have right
Well,
now?
the book, I've already, the characters that are introduced already on the website and that I've talked a little bit about are the characters that are included already in book 1 and book 2. Book 2 is already written. It's
Oh,
just a
okay.
matter of illustrating it. So there is a plan, excuse me, to go forward with book 2. But I still have to work out the nitty
Yeah.
gritty with my with my asset providers and so forth.
Okay. Got it. So I'll definitely put all the links down below and all her information. Definitely check it out. Follow her on Instagram and check out her website. It's really cool and really amazing what you're doing. I truly appreciate the fact that you're here with us and telling us your journey. Thank you, because I know even sharing that in itself can be hard. Like, even talking about everything we've gone through can be hard. I know it took me like 20 years to even do that. So the fact that you're here, I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to. I'm definitely going to be ordering. I'm definitely going to be ordering my copy. Is there
Good.
anything else you would like to share with us before we get going?
No, I think in a short time, we covered a lot. I can't think of anything else at the moment. Just like I said, I'm on a lot of different social media. You can check out my website. I'm on Instagram as well as on I guess Twitter, which is now X, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So you can find me on those four. I'm hoping to get on TikTok soon with and doing a little more video on my social media. So just
That
stay
would be
tuned.
cool.
Stay tuned in, and as soon as I know it, then you'll know it.
That would be cool. And we'll definitely have you on again. We'll definitely have you on again. It was such a pleasure to talking to you, hearing your journey and this whole concept. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I'll see everyone on the next episode of Figuring Out Epilepsy. Bye, guys.